So, speaking of old consoles, Ben, and I was a Nintendo fanboy growing up in the 90s. You were Sega, weren't you?
Oh yeah, my mate had the Master System. Wait, Master System. What was the first one? It was Master
Master
System.
System was 8-bit, same as the Nintendo
Yeah,
Entertainment System. Then,
yeah.
then, uh,
I
then
th-
we had the Mega Drive, which
the
was the
Drive. Yeah,
which
I
was the
think I had.
which is the Genesis in NTSC regions.
Yeah, I think I had the Mega Drive 2 from memory,
hmm
and then
which competed with the Super Nintendo 16-bit.
yeah, yeah, and then I think I went. I know I had a Game Boy, like the original Game Boy. So I think that was really the only Nintendo
Right, right.
console that or console handheld that I've ever had. I've had an
Didn't have
Atari Lynx.
didn't have the Game Gear.
No, I didn't have the Game Gear, but I had the Atari Lynx. That
hmm
wasn't too bad from memory. It was fairly big, but it was in color and portable and stuff at the time, which was pretty. Um, then I think I went to PlayStation One. I missed out on PS2, Xbox era, but
hmm
my mate had an Xbox, and we used to play Live O2, or 2002 on 100-inch projector,
hmm
which is pretty awesome. And then PS3 I got, and obviously PS4. So I think that was the consoles and handhelds and stuff that I've had.
Well, because you had the Mega Drive, or you believe you had the Mega Drive, which was the Genesis in the States, um, even though you had that console, you wouldn't have been able to get Lakers versus Celtics, the forerunner to NBA Live, of course, the NBA playoff series, Lakers versus Celtics in the NBA playoffs. Um, you would not have been able to get your hands on that back in the day because the PAL version was actually cancelled. It only came out in the NTSC regions. Of course, the MS-DOS version was came out, I guess, only in North America, but you can import that, I guess, and it's available, I think, pretty much everywhere as abandonware these days. But the PAL version for Mega Drive was cancelled, even though it was reviewed in various magazines in the UK. But apparently, 192 copies did make their way out of EA back in the day, a PAL version of Lakers versus Celtics. 13 of them have been known to surface, and the most recent one has been found by, let's see, it's in the UK by David Amore.
I wonder if any relation to Peter Moore.
It's not totally different surnames, so probably not. AMOR, David Amore.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Sorry.
yeah,
I thought it was MO. I forgot. Like when I read it, I forgot to read the name.
no.
So
So it's David Amore, co-founder of the now-defunct Brighton developer Relentless Software. Yeah, he came across the PAL version of Lakers versus Celtics on eBay, and it's getting some pretty big bids. The latest of which is around it's over £8,000, which is, I guess, close to 20,000 Australian at
yeah,
least. So it is fetching quite a price because it is a very rare collector's item. This is I guess it's the NBA Elite 11 of its day, but obviously that game, NBA Elite 11 is what it is, whereas Lakers versus Celtics is considered a classic. Yeah, but the PAL version, because it was cancelled, but some copies did make it into the wild. Speculation is that they didn't get the international licensing rights, and that was a big problem for a long time with games, and it's why the college games have never officially come to the PAL regions. Of course, because you had the PS3, you were able to import those
yep,
games, but not the case back in the well, actually, well, no, Super Nintendo had a conversion cartridge that you could actually play NTSC, and you could play NTSC cartridges on a PAL Nintendo, Super Nintendo. I don't know about Mega Drive and Genesis games, but in any case, yeah, this game, Lakers versus Celtics, this copy is going for, at last check, over £8,000. So it's pretty incredible.
yeah, and good a bit of money if they do. Well, obviously they'll sell it, and but I wonder if it will force anyone else that's got any of those copies that did make it out of studio, force people to actually go, holy crap, I could make a mint from this.
Yeah, I mean,
Force them to have go on a bit of a rummage sprinkling to try and find it.
I think that is a big thing in the retro gaming, so the retro collecting hobby as well, the retro gaming, retro collecting hobby, that a lot of people And they also it's driving up the prices of the really common cheap games as well, because people think, oh well, it's an old game, so it's got to be expensive. But some of these games were just made, thousands and thousands of copies. They were readily available and they're still in circulation. Whereas this is actually a rare game. So, but yeah, I think people will certainly start looking around and seeing if they can get hold of. Well, you'd have to be pretty lucky to get hold of one of these 192 that apparently left EA back in the day. At least 192 accounted for, and 13, as I said, around 13 that have been surfaced as of this time. But yeah, people might go for a rummage through their old stuff and find what kind of old collectibles they have. And if you look on eBay, certainly there are people selling the old games for a lot. And I've picked up a few old games here and there, as you know, for fairly cheaply. I've looked at some of the prices that people wanted. Yeah, that's not in my budget. I don't. I'm not that keen to. I've got a pretty big collection of basketball games at the moment. I'm not that keen to expand it for hundreds of dollars. I don't think I've paid more. I don't think I've paid more than about 15 or 20, and that's been for the rarer games as well.
So the £1,000 one definitely out of the budget.
Yeah, $20,000, $20,000 Australian dollars. I don't have lying around as it is, and if it was, there'd be other things I'd be doing with it, I suppose. But that is cool. That is cool to kind of have, because we get a lot of these discoveries in other retro games. You don't really get it with sports games and basketball games in particular, because it is such a niche interest. Basketball gaming, we forget that in our community because we're obviously so passionate about basketball and basketball video games, but we do forget it is kind of a niche hobby within video gaming. It's rare that we kind of get something like this. So yeah, it is actually cool to actually have a story to talk about like that.
Yeah, I wonder how much the final pricing will go for. If there'll be any like last minute bids for it, or if people just go, no, that's about as far as I can go.
Hopefully it sells for a lot. It's lucky enough to get it and put it up on there at eBay, and a collector hopefully gets a legitimate bid. He's actually put it on there, the games that he found to put on there, so he could buy a Switch for his son. And I think with the £8,000 or plus, he's going to be able to afford the Switch. Unfortunately, not going to be able to get the patch for NBA Playgrounds just yet. no amount of money is going to be able to force that through from Nintendo. But there you go. Of course, if you still want to get NBA Playgrounds after that, you have some money left over from the £8,000 or £9,000 that it'll end up fetching. So yeah, but you're right. We should keep an eye on that and see how much it ends up going for.
Something to talk about for next week, I guess. I imagine the closing time of the bid would be over by then.
Well, possibly, yeah. So you talk about cancelled games and games that have got out of the wild. I would still love a copy of NBA Elite 11 just for the collection. I've thought about how much I'd pay for it. I think for that one, I might go up as much as 150, 200 Australian dollars if I get a PAL version. Maybe. Sure. I know the game is not necessarily worth it, or was, from what I've heard, definitely not worth it, but it's more the rarity factor in having the complete collection and having an unreleased game, that's a true collectible in that respect. But yeah, if I'm... Just to be clear, I wouldn't be paying that kind of money because I think NBA Elite 11 was actually going to be worth that money. It's strictly the rarity factor and that. But anything more than that, yeah, I'm not. I don't have that much disposable income that I'm going to throw away that much on a collectible. Not unless it's going to really increase in value, I suppose, and it's probably not.